Hey, everybody, this is Jeremiah Craig coming at you with a boot company interview. This is a brand new boot brand out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Tonight, I have Clyde Bennett III here of Clyde Boots. How's it going, Clyde? Thank you for joining me this evening.
Yeah, it's going well. Going well. Thanks for having me. I'm
We
pumped to
got
talk.
lots of folks in here on the live chat. I think we got several folks already commenting, and they are all commenting on how awesome the boots are. Brian Little is in here saying that boot is so cool.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to dive deep into, the meaning behind it, why it was created, and things to come with the brand.
Yeah, I'm pumped to hear the story, and I know everybody else is as well. So let's jump right into this. Let's start out like right at the beginning. How did you get into cowboy boots in the first place? Let's not even start with the brand itself. Let's just start with cowboy boots.
Yeah. Cowboy boots have been something that I've always been around, and not because I say grew up on a farm or grew up in a super Western part of the country. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. But my dad, ever since he was in high school, he's worn cowboy boots. There's a store called Boot Country. Shout out to Boot Country, the first place I ever got a pair of boots. They have about, I think, 4 units in Ohio and Kentucky, so not a big chain. But they have great cowboy boots. Kind of like Jeremiah says, those specialty boutique stores have some of the best boots you'll find, and they get a lot of customs from like Los Altos that are specific to that store. So it's awesome. So, anyways, my dad didn't grow up really around cowboy boots, but just loved the look, and he always wore them. And as a lot of people are with their dads, especially sons, you kind of you want to be similar to them, or you want to at least you get some of your style, you get something from them, and your mom as well. So my parents have just always worn cowboy boots, my dad specifically, and I loved the look. And when I was around 13, 14, I got my own pair, went to boot country, and it's been in me ever since. I had one pair for a couple years, and then eventually kept stacking them. I'm probably around 15 to 20 now. Some of my favorites. I guess I'll wait if that's another question, but I have some favorite brands that I love wearing outside of Clyde boots, and that I've been wearing for a few years now. So that's how I got into them. I'd say my dad and just having two stylish parents that love badass cowboy boots, especially Gators. My dad loves Gators.
That's what I'm talking about. That's great style right there. So did your dad take you on that first trip to what was it, Boot Country, you said?
Yeah, he did. And my dad has been shopping at Boot Country for a long time, as I said. So even when I go there on my own now, and when I got my license when I was 16, they always bring up, they're like, "Hey, I saw your dad in those boots." So my dad has a pair of lime green Gators that he got from, it's not in the store. They just got them specially for him. And they always love bringing that up because he's a lawyer and he'll go to court sometimes in his boots. So my dad took me to Boot Country, and they've just always adored his style with it. So I just try to live up to it as much as I can because we have the same name as well.
No doubt. Yeah, one thing that I always think about when I think gator boots, I always, for some reason, think about that with lawyers wearing them, especially full gator boots, like not only just the foot itself, but the tops too. And that's
Yeah,
like you walk in the courtroom in a pair of gator boots, and you know that if you're the opposing side, you stand no chance at all.
yeah. No, you're a force to be reckoned with in the Gators for sure. So it's awesome.
So then several years later, you get the idea to start a cowboy boot brand. Where did that come from? I mean, it must have stemmed from growing up around cowboy boots, but then what made you take that next step to say, you know what, I want to get in this business?
Yeah, that's a good question. And about a year and a half ago, I've always first off, I guess I'll start by saying I've always liked to create stuff. I've worked around fashion. I worked at a high fashion boutique when I was in college. I had really cool brands, had footwear, not cowboy boots, but I'm pretty ingrained in the fashion space. So I've always liked creating stuff. I've tried my hand at clothing, even when I was younger, just painting on clothing. So cowboy boots, I've always worn them. As I said, I love them, and I was looking for a pair specifically. I said I want one that's eye popping yet very fashionable and subtle. So I wanted to be eye popping but subtle. I know that sounds a bit ironic, but I wanted something that wasn't too much but was still very eye catching. And I couldn't find it. I just couldn't find it. Maybe I wasn't looking in the right place, but it made me say, okay, I'll make my own. because I just went through a process of creating clothing from a cut and sew process, which was pretty tough. So I knew I could find it. I knew I could do it. I knew I had the grit to do it. And that's what led to it. So started sketching, came up with the Clyde logo on a flight, sent it to Sarah Parker. If she's watching this, shout out to Sarah Parker. She got it graphically made for me. And then that was the logo. And then I started sketching boots, and the cross boot was the first boot I sketched. I have a lot more that I've sketched that are in the couple in the sample process and a few more just on paper. But that's why I started it. I felt like I wanted a pair that I couldn't find, so I decided to make it.
Awesome. So there's more sketches in the process, and I'm going to jump right into the chat here because right away we get a question from David Wilkinson, and he asks, are there any round toe boots planned for the future?
Yeah. So I know Jeremiah knows the answer to that question. We do have a rounder toe boot, our toe to be specific. I won't splurge too many details, but it's very badass. Pardon my language, if I can say that.
Yeah, I don't care what you say.
Yeah,
This is YouTube. You say whatever you want.
Yeah, great boot. It's brown, and I'll keep it at that. Now, I'm in the Reddit Cowboy Boot group chat or Cowboy Boot subreddit, as I'm sure a lot of you guys watching are. And you guys might have seen this, but it got pretty good review. Reddit can be harsh because people live behind those, those names they have, and it's some alias. So they'll come at you correct, and it's had good feedback. So hopefully this Arto brown boot excels. That'll be around June when that drops. So that'll hopefully shake up some stuff in the boot space and help out Clyde Boots.
That's exciting. Freddie Mardis here in the chat. Also, he's Freddie Mardis II, so he knows what it's like having a father with the same name. He says he bought a pair of Wranglers from Boot Country once.
Wow, that's awesome. I just love to hear that connection to Boot Country. I wonder if he's from the Midwest.
He's from Chicago.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a great place, and it's still ran in the family. Gotta love it.
Yes. Those small stores, it's so fun running into folks and just talking about those small stores. And whenever I know somebody who has been to a store that I've been to, it's always a really cool connection point.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the launch of Clyde Boots. So you started the boot brand, but how long did it actually take from the ideation of it to actually getting the first boot in hand? What was that process like?
Yeah. I'll be honest. It was definitely a tough process, but it was quicker than I thought it would be. It wasn't like 2 or 3 or 1 to 2 years. It was probably to get my first sample, and I went through about 4 rounds of sampling. I think it probably took 6 months from the first time I sketched that cross boot to the time I got the first sample. First launch was about probably 4 to 5 months after that, so about a year from when I had first made the sketch. But getting that first sample, it was quick, but the hardest part of that 6 months was finding a manufacturer that I could work well with, because as we know, you have huge factories like, say, Vaqueras. They do, Tacovas, a lot of other big name boots, but those minimum order quantities are really big compared to, for me, yes, I could get 1,000 boots made, but, we don't have the demand quite yet to sell through that quickly enough. So I'm sitting on a lot of, inventory that I am having a hard time selling. Obviously upfront investment, if you have a huge one, if you have a lot of money to spend, that could be a route you go, but I didn't have that opportunity. So I'd say, it was about 6 months to get the first sample, about a year to launch. And a big part of that 6 months was just finding a manufacturer, which was a tough process and definitely a barrier to entry. Not because you can't find one, but because if you do it from America, it can be hard with language barriers. So it's nice to either have a translator or, but like Paul Hedrick did with Tacovas, I think he just went to Mexico and was there for a few weeks and, sampled manufacturers and found one.
Yeah. I also hear that a lot from boot companies that have been around for a while. Sometimes it can be tough to work with some of the factories in Leon just because there are so many. And right now, this is a very competitive space.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a certain request to a manufacturer and you really want them to abide by it, if they have a ton of clients that they don't really have to worry about your money because you're not maybe bringing in as much as someone else, they can easily just disregard it and say, we don't even really need to work with you anymore. So, if you're a big dog and you make thousands of boots a month, yeah, you're probably good. But kind of being a smaller fish that I am, hopefully being a big fish soon, you really have to learn how to balance these relationships, but still get what you want and get the product that the client deserves. And always sticking to that creative vision. That's a huge thing for me. Take money out of it, just create a vision first and then go from there.
What is the core of that creative vision? Where does that start and the foundation sort of stem from?
Yeah, I'd say that creative vision stems from I want to make cowboy boots that fit the person who's a Western enthusiast that just loves Western cowboy boots, loves the aura. Maybe they, are from a Montana or Wyoming, and it just fits everything in that area. But I also want people in Manhattan and New York City that walk up and down runways and that, walk the streets in Soho and shop to also want to wear my cowboy boots. And I want those to be one and the same. I think that's a connection that is missing in the cowboy boot space. I see the Western population being catered to heavily. And when I say population, I don't mean where people live, but just the people that love the Western wear Wrangler jeans. But I don't see as much overlap with pop culture and say fashion in LA and New York, and I guess high fashion, as you would say. I think that those are not mutually exclusive and they can go together. I think that's why you see Lucchese and Tecovas are doing all these influencer collaborations, and that's to get that crossover because you have $1 billion industry on the other side of it. So I think that's a big piece of the creative vision for sure, is making a boot that appeals to the Western enthusiasts and also the high fashion enthusiasts, and also just people that like wearing cool shit.
Yeah, I love it. Totally, 100%. That's great. So you talked about barriers to entry and being like that language barrier. During that launch, were there any other barriers? Like it kind of sounds like you maybe were on the edge of the pandemic just ending. Did that play any effect into you, struggling to launch this brand from the get-go?
Yeah, I'd say the pandemic didn't help, but it didn't hurt me extensively. I'd say the biggest barriers to entry were first upfront capital. To sample the boot and to hit minimum order quantities, you had to have a certain amount of capital to even get the boot in hand and then get a ton of them made. And obviously you have no sales before you do that, but you have to get that done. I said the second thing is marketing, which also goes hand in hand with upfront capital. You have to market heavy, and that's how the pandemic actually also affected me a lot. Because before the pandemic, online boot sales were huge. Tecovas obviously is a huge DTC player there, but it wasn't as popular. Now, if you're selling cowboy boots, online, you have a lot of competitors. I mean, I think if you search Clyde Boots on Google, Tecovas is the first thing that comes up on the strip with all their boots that has their price. So, it's a hard game. So that's how the pandemic probably affected me the most, is just the increase in online presence that you have to have and the upfront capital it takes to get that. Another barrier to entry, I would just say, is language barrier a bit. I have a few buddies that speak Spanish really well that have helped me out in this process. And luckily, the main point of contact, the manufacturer, speaks English as well. So that hasn't been too bad, but I know there are situations where it can get a bit testy.
No doubt. That's great. I'm glad that you were able to get through the pandemic towards the end and even be inspired to launch it during that. I mean, that's must feel like such a great accomplishment, because it seemed like everything was really slow, especially with the supply chain issues and things like that. So to make that accomplishment seems really, you should be proud of that. That's pretty sweet.
I appreciate it. A lot of good ideas were born out of the pandemic. I think if you looked at it the right way, some people were like, pandemic, sit with the windows closed and shades down. That's not really how me and the people around me were thinking about it. It's like, how can we better ourselves? We worked out a ton. We exercised, and we came up with ideas. And, Clyde Boots has been an awesome pandemic child, if you will.
That's great. I love to hear it. What was the most surprising thing that you came across during this sort of launch, this ideation from having the idea to make Clyde Boots and then having the website, launching it? During that entire process, what was something that you didn't expect to come up that did, and maybe you didn't know how to deal with it right away?
Yeah, I'd say one thing off the bat is just like creating the website. I had someone help me out with that, but getting that all reined in is very tough. And then getting your presence on Google search and SEO, I know you know a lot about in your history of marketing, making sure that when you search Clyde Boots, that pops up and that, that customer has easy access. I'd say another thing is that I didn't know before I got into this space was just how many cowboy boots there are and just how many different brands there are. I've learned a lot from you, as I always remind you. The competition is fierce. I mean, Lyle's boots, I don't know if he's on here, but those boots are just, those boots are amazing. And, it's hard to compete with those with guys like that. Those boots are insane. So just pushing forward and knowing competition is stiff, but knowing you still got to push through and just stick to that creative vision.
That's great. I love to hear it. I want to remind everybody that you can ask Clyde Bennett III of Clyde Boots any questions, and you can put them in the live chat, and I will hope to get to them. If depending on how many come through, we did get a couple, and I'm going to take a break from the questions that I have planned for Clyde and hit the live chat with some of the questions that you guys have. The first one here that has come up is from Freddie, and he asks, will we see Clyde Boots in big box stores like Boot Barn and Cavender's eventually?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that we are looking into, kind of weighing the pros and cons of that. But I lean towards saying hopefully yes. Not in any discussions with them at this time, but big box retail is something that I think could be very useful for the brand. So looking into that for sure. And I guess time will tell, but definitely pushing to at least explore that avenue at this time.
Yeah, because it's like what we were talking about before with the marketing and everything. And when you go direct to consumer, then all of that responsibility is on you. But then when you partner with a retailer, then of course you sort of share that responsibility for the marketing. Is that part of the reason why you're thinking about it? And what would be the downsides of either or?
Yeah, I'd say one big pro that I've been looking at is just, you hit the nail on the head is, when you get into a boot barn, that marketing piece, it's not done, but you have a lot of eyes on your boot everywhere across the country and the Cavender's. I'd say a con could be just, when you're dealing with these big box retailers, a lot of times they want to pay a price that you might not be, good with. And then that price affects what you might want to charge on your website, because if you charge lower at a boot barn, and you're charging higher on your website, you have a mismatch. But then, there's different manufacturing costs that might be associated with their quantities and then yours on the website. So there's just a lot of, crisscross there. That being said, when I think finances and big box retail, I'd like to think that, if Clyde Boots wasn't a Boot Barn or Cavender's, I'd be happy to probably agree with their terms, but I haven't went down that road yet and don't know all the numbers just yet.
Yeah, no doubt. And the numbers change all the time. I mean, it seems like Lucchese sort of dabbles in both spaces quite frequently. And right now they're sort of moving away from the retailers after being there for a while and going back to mainly direct to consumer on many of their models and styles that they used to have in the stores. So, I mean, there might even be space there for you to sort of slide in, since it's a very similarly made kind of boot that's traditionally made. Of course, It doesn't have the name of Lucchese yet, right, but, a lot of retailers are kind of looking for boots like this right now to stock their stores with. So there's always a pro and con with everything. And even the big companies that have been around forever are still weighing them even today.
Yep. So hopefully, I guess answer your question, Freddie's question, yes, hopefully get in some big box stores and still have the website booming as well.
Awesome. Thank you for the question, Freddie, and everybody coming through. I just want to remind you that you can ask Clyde Bennett III of Clyde Boots any questions. If you have them, just put them in the live chat, and I'll try to get to them. The next one here comes from Milan Toombs, and they ask, will the cross be a part of future boots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this next boot that I have coming in the summer will not feature a cross. That being said, I am a religious man. It's inspired by my mom's favorite Bible verse. So a cross will probably be featured on something again. This next boot, it will not. But the cross is a great symbol. You know, whether you are religious or not, in my case, it is a symbol of my religion, Christianity, and the Bible verse, Philippians 4:13. But yeah, I think it'll be on other boots in the future, but definitely want to, you know, exercise that creative muscle and come up with some other maybe symbols or just designs before I come back to that specifically.
Great. Thank you for the question, Milan. The next question here comes from Brian Little, and he asks just what you had to say about that inspiration piece. He asks, how did you choose Philippians 4:13 as an inspiration? You said it's your mother's favorite, but what about that sort of connects with her and then also connects with you?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, what connects with my mom and myself, and because I kind of learned this message from my mom, is definitely, you know, the I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And, you know, my uncle he gave a sermon a few months ago, and I think there's a Bible verse. I actually read it the other day. I think it says, if you have a mustard seed of faith, and mustard seed is a very small seed. I think it might be one of the smallest seeds on the world or on the planet. You can move a mountain with a mustard seed of faith. So, you know, the I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me is similar to that. It's, you know, I can do, you know, am I physically going to try to move a mountain? Okay, no, but it's saying, hey, whatever is testing me in that moment, whatever is going on that's giving me hardship, I can get through it or do what I need to do through Christ, whatever it is and whatever it takes. So that's where that inspiration lies from my mom and in me and my family.
That's great. I love it. There's so much inspiration to it. And it's one of my favorite names. It's a long name for a boot, but I also really like it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you like it. It is long, but I think the story behind it ties perfectly.
Yeah. And I'm not criticizing the fact that it's long. I've written songs with really long titles, so don't get me wrong. I like long titles, but this one is definitely an inspiration. When you wear it, you just say, this is the I can do all boot. So you're already ready to go for pretty much anything.
Yeah. Run through a wall.
Thank you for the question, Brian Little. We got another question here from David Wilkinson, who asks, are you planning any exotic boots?
Yeah, great question. And I love exotic boots. We'll definitely plan on doing some exotics. Don't want to release too much on the next boot, but we'll wait and see what that one is. But alligator is definitely a targeted skin for me. Python, just because I've just always loved python. I think the elephant boots are very cool, but don't know if I'll go into that anytime soon. But I think the first exotic that I'll have to pursue, or that I really want to, is gator. I don't know if whoever asked that question was on the call earlier, but gator is by far my favorite skin. We know the Barons by Lucchese, the famous $14,000 boot. You know, that's just an amazing boot. But my dad's always worn gators, and you know, the lemon pepper steppers. You know, a nice pair of gators is, you know, something unheard of. I love them. So yeah, definitely gators soon.
That's a great first exotic. Like, if you're going to go exotic, that's a go big or go home boot for your first exotic one. That's so cool.
And those blackjack, the Caymans that you were wearing on your Instagram the other day, those are awesome too. I just love those. The black.
Oh, those are the Yeehaw Cowboy ones.
Oh yeah, Yeehaw Cowboy. Okay, yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, those are sweet. I got married in those boots.
Oh, that's awesome. And you guys are still together, so that's just a sign.
Oh yeah, you know it. Thank you for the question, David. We got another question here from Kyle Ehrlich, who asks, will you introduce more widths and medium round toe in any future models? Kyle, he did say that there's a round toe coming, but what about widths? Are you going to sort of go into wide widths, narrow widths for men? What is your view on that?
Yeah. I want to get to the point where I can offer almost as many widths as I can. I don't want anyone, I've read comments, I've gotten feedback. I don't want anyone to like the boot and be like, can't fit that. So I'm actually working on that now, talking to my manufacturer about opening up the floodgates there. I mean, I don't want anybody to say I love that boot and I can't get that boot because of sizing. So I'm looking at as many widths as I can to hopefully have all that functionality on the website to where you can pick hopefully what you need.
That's great. Speaking of sizing, what about large sizes? So we got Jim Collins in here asking, what is the largest size boot that you can make?
Yeah, I got an email actually from a guy named Ken, and he wanted a size 15. And I talked to my manufacturer, and we're getting it done. So can definitely go very high. I know initially it was 14. She said we could get 15 done. So I'm going to push and see what else we can do. One of my buddies, he plays for Chapel Hill, North Carolina Chapel Hill Tar Heels, and he's a size 17. So I think I'm going to ask her about him next to get him a pair. So it might be 17 soon, but as of right now, 15 men's.
Wow, love it. That would be so cool to offer a size 17. One of the few boot companies out there would be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's great. So I want to thank everybody for the questions. If you have any others come through, you can put them in the live chat and I'll try to get to them. I will go through some of my other questions here, which a lot of you guys already asked that I had planned. So I want to jump to this one. What is the next steps overall for Clyde Boots brand? Like, where do you want to go? Even just not like this year, but I hate to be that guy who asks this question, but where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I promise this isn't a job interview.
Yeah. I mean, I want Clyde Boots to just continue to stack boots on top of each other. I have one boot now. I have two in the next 3 or 4 months. And, in the next 5 years, I hopefully want to amass, closer to 20. I want to make sure that every boot is made special. Like it has a unique vision that I've sat on and let marinate. I know that I could go in and make, a brown, black, and all these different boots very quickly, but I want everything to be very unique and something that people haven't seen. So I'd say hopefully in the next 5 years, have 15 to 20 boots and also have some cut and sew clothing. There's a big difference between print clothing and cut and sew clothing, and they're both very awesome. But I love the art of cutting patterns. I don't do it myself, but working with designers to cut patterns and get unique shapes and drapes based upon a cut and sew clothing process. So hopefully soon in the next couple of years, have some clothing to go along with it. That crosses the line between Western and high fashion. So boots overall, like over all of that, just cowboy boots. I just want to bring some clothing in it as well, and also some leather goods. There's some gloves that I've thought of that I'm getting a sample on soon that'll have a really cool design. We're just trying to change the game up a little bit. I don't want to try to be exactly like a Tacovas or a Lucchese or a Blackjack, because they do really well what they do. So I need to figure out what I can do really well to push our brand to new heights. No one wants the same brand and just a different name. Let's create something new.
That's great. That's so cool. We got congratulations here in the comments. We got Monty saying good for you, man, wishing you the best. Kyle Ehrlich says great. And we do have a couple of questions about ostrich boots. Both Milan and Thomas are like, what about ostrich? How do you feel about ostrich just in general?
Yeah, I like ostrich boots. I have a pair that I really enjoy. I wore them to the office a few days ago. I like them, and I definitely am going to dive into that as well. I think my exotic manufacturing will probably start in the next half year to a year. So definitely going to be pushing, all of that. Ostrich, as I mentioned, gator first, if all goes well, and some snake skins as well. So definitely open to ostrich. I have a couple pairs in my closet. Love them.
Yes, what a great leather. Alan here asks a question. We sort of touched on it before about how you're sketching out the designs for these boots, but if in 5 years you're looking to have like maybe 15 to 20 different styles, will you be personally designing all of them, or do you see some of them maybe being collabs?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say I'll design most of them, but eyeing a collab actually with a guy out of Kentucky and potentially thinking about doing a Ohio or Cincinnati, Ohio focused boot and then a Kentucky boot. But a boot, I want that boot to feature a design that is, you have to be from Cincinnati, Ohio to know, hey, that's a Cincinnati, Ohio reference and boot. I don't want to just put a Reds logo or Bengals logo on the boot. I want to do something that's really subtle yet witty that really you have to be from Cincinnati to know. So we'll definitely do some collabs. And depending on where we go from here, I know I've reached out to a couple brands about collabs as well. I'm just waiting to hear back. So I know Compton Cowboys is a nice collective in California. I would love to do something with them. Would love to do something with Yeehaw as well. I really like what they're doing, and as well as a plethora of other brands. So definitely want to do some collabs, but most of those will probably be straight designed by me.
Great. Yeah. And Compton Cowboys have done collabs in the past, correct? With
Yes.
Ariat even?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
That'd be huge. That'd be awesome. So thank you for the question, Alan. We got another question here from Carol Burgess. What do you have planned for women's boots? I know the I Can Do All does come in women's sizes, but do you see yourself releasing a bunch of different boots and just having a men's and women's version of the same thing? Or do you see that sort of forking off in different areas there?
Yeah. I think I will never make a boot that is only for men. I think I'll have a women's rendition of it probably. I can't say never. I can't say never. Because I think taste palettes are just different for the man and woman. But yeah, I think it will probably fork in a different direction. So I know that kind of goes back on what I just said. Yeah. I guess I know Carol's a great fan of yours. Carol's always tuned in. So Carol, thanks for the question. But yeah, I think I will. I think they will fork kind of in separate directions eventually. And, some women's boots will be specifically women, some men's will be specifically men's, but I'll always have that crossover as well. This next boot that I'm releasing in the summer will be both men's and women's. But also there's some variations that I might do, make the women's boot a little bit different than the men's because I know a woman might like this more than a man would.
Great. Thank you for the question, Carolyn. Great answer, Clyde. Appreciate that. We get another question here from David. Since you're talking about high fashion, what about some hand tool boots like the ones that we've seen from Heritage Boot before? I know we are asking this question. I'm going to report on the findings here next Sunday during the live stream where we announce the winner of the Clyde Boots. But where do you see hand tooling sort of coming up? Is that going to be sort of a niche thing that you approach later or maybe sooner?
I'd say probably, I can't say like within the year, but definitely something that I'm looking into and want to do very soon. Very intricate process that I think you can have maximum design capabilities. So definitely want to get into that for sure.
No doubt. It's a really, really good look.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the how you guys are voting on that form when you enter the giveaway. I'm watching that and it's incredible. There is one that is running away with everything, and you could probably guess which one it is. And then all the other ones are pretty much even as people's favorites designs in the tops of cowboy boots. So of course the I Can Do All features overlay. And you guys will have to see where that lands next Sunday when I report how you guys voted. But one totally ran away with it. 2/3 of the vote.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Clyde. I appreciate you spending time with us this evening. I appreciate everybody watching and listening and asking questions in the live chat. Lots of great encouragement here in the live chat, Clyde. So I recommend that you go through and read it afterwards, because there's nothing but positivity in here. Everybody is so incredible. Thank you guys for watching and for asking questions. I want to remind everybody that next Sunday, February 26th, I will be announcing the winner of the Clyde Boots, the I Can Do All. And of course, the winner gets a brand new pair of boots in their size. So be sure to join, because we're also going to have some really cool prize packs available for those of you who join us live as well. So I will see you guys there. Clyde, thank you again for joining. Best of luck with the new brand. It seems like you're off to a great start, and you're making some great boots while you're at it. So I can't wait to see what you guys got next.
Yeah, really appreciate everyone's time and you bringing me on here. And if I can leave everyone with one message, it's just that Clyde Boots is going to keep coming and coming hard, and keep creating and bringing new boots to your phone or mobile device, whatever you use to shop boots, and hopefully in person even sooner. So thanks for all the support, and look forward to seeing where things go from here. But this next boot, wow, can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait either. You said June, right?
Yep, June.
Awesome. Cool. Looking forward to it. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we will see you later. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.